Roseanne heard a knock on the door and hesitated to answer. Her husband, Raymond, should have been home by now, and she was angry that the 20 centimeters of snow that fell in the morning hadn't been cleared yet. The sky had cleared, the wind picked up, and the temperature dropped sharply. She didn't want to shovel the driveway herself. She tried calling her husband to find out when he'd be home, but couldn't reach him. She thought to herself, typical of him to try to avoid work. Jerk. After a busy day working in operating rooms and maternity wards at the hospital, where she had to be on duty on weekends since she'd only been there for 18 months, she was looking forward to relaxing at home. When she heard the knock again, she worried about Raymond being missing. She looked through the peephole and saw Dell, a detective sergeant and her husband's best friend, standing with an unfamiliar man in uniform. Dell, also known as Randell, worked in the sheriff's office a few counties north of Minneapolis, where he and Raymond grew up. They were supposed to go ice fishing that weekend. Dell was the biggest redneck she'd ever met, and it annoyed her that he and Raymond were best friends. Raymond had just gotten back into ice fishing this winter, something he'd done as a teenager, and she couldn't understand why he wanted to freeze out there again. Maybe it had something to do with his recent illness. Damn it, Dell, she thought. What the hell do you want? I thought my worthless husband was with your sorry ass. Dell was not surprised by this greeting. They never got along, especially in the last 2 years after she was caught cheating on Ray. This is not a social visit, Rosie. It's damn cold here. Can we come in? I told you I'm Roseanne. I don't like it when even Raymond calls me Rosie. So no, I don't allow you to enter. This will give you an incentive to quickly end everything. Dell sighed loudly. Damn you, Roseanne. But okay. This is Officer Tyler Perkins with the State Patrol. He has some official business that he must discuss with you. Roseanne looked up at the giant officer. She wondered where they always found these huge men to become officers. With the hat on, he looked to be over 2 meters tall, although he was probably a little under 2. Mrs. Franklin, I am very sorry to inform you that this morning your husband and his car fell through the ice. The part of the lake where he fell through is more than 45 meters deep, and the ice in this area is not considered stable enough to use large rescue equipment. Current rescue efforts have been unsuccessful, and with him underwater for so long, no one believes anyone could still be alive. In a couple of days, when the weather improves, we will try again to pull out the car and his body. Here are some photos from the scene before rescue crews arrived. The officer had a tablet and flipped through some photos where she could clearly see Raymond's tent and camp stove sitting next to a large hole in the ice that Raymond's SUV seemed too heavy to support. There were also several photos of the dive team working with light equipment that they could have used to lift the SUV if they had been able to find it earlier in the day. Rosanna said, "This is stupid shit. He doesn't even know how to fish right. Now who's going to clear this damn snow from the driveway? I swear, he can't even die properly. Poor Samantha." The officer was shocked to see how indifferent she was to her husband's death. But Dell wasn't surprised. Their second honeymoon, after Raymond's mom convinced him to take her back, didn't last long. For years, she was harsh to Dell. He had warned Ray not to go too far. This winter hadn't even been that cold. It was not safe to travel too far from the coast, but he continued to push his luck. Rosanna replied, perhaps the headaches from his cancer became too unbearable, and he decided to jump out of his pants and commit suicide. Dell's face showed surprise. Did you know about cancer? Of course, Roseanne replied. This idiot can't hide anything from me. He thought he was keeping everything a secret. But when I saw the hospital check for $4,000 and discovered the CT scan of his little brain hidden in his office files, I knew. At least I found them in time to get a couple different life insurance policies. Now, perhaps, is there anything else you need from me? Dell shook his head, amazed at the woman's audacity. Crap. That's cool, even for you, Rosie. I'm Roseanne, idiot. The officer tried to take control of the situation. We will have documents that you need to sign tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Hopefully we'll get the body out soon. I'm sorry for your loss. Don't worry about it. Let me know when they fish his ass out, and I'll give you the name of a funeral home to clean him up and roast him. Is it clear? Fish his ass out. Peel and fry. She looked at them, but they didn't laugh. Oh, calm down. He was no saint either. Have you told his mother yet? No. We are required by law to notify you first. You want to tell her yourself, or is it better for us to do it? We're not on the best terms, said Roseanne. So it's better if you do it. If you don't need anything else, I have work to do. For example, I need to warm up. Sorry. Both men stood with their mouths open as she closed the door on them. As they turned to leave, they heard through the door. Damn it. I told you she's just a bitch, Dell said. Karma has a way of catching people like her, Ty replied. Dell smiled and said, I hope so. Both men walked to the large Ford parked in front of a neighbor's house to head back to their neighborhood. Rosanna quickly called her lover. Hey, Clint, I'm free tonight. Tell your wife the hospital called and asked you to come back. Dr. Clinton Williams, a surgeon, was always up for fun with Roseanne, even though they had already had a quickie in an empty office earlier that day. I thought your husband was coming back this afternoon. How are you going to sneak out? He asked. You won't believe this, she replied. The state police just showed up and made me happy that the stupid shit fell through the ice and drowned this morning. I'm free from him forever. I'll take sick leave tomorrow morning. Let's go. Celebrate. Your husband just died and you want to go celebrate. Damn right. You know I couldn't stand him. Are you refusing to have sex with me? Clint wondered. He did, but Roseanne was damn good, especially compared to his conservative wife, so he wasn't going to give her the chance to replace him with someone else. If what she just said was true, then they would probably meet a lot more often in the very near future. What time do you want me to pick you up? This is my man. As soon as possible. And plan to spend the night here, and I'll do it so that it's worth your time, he replied. I'll find a way. I'll be with you in an hour. It was a wild night for the two of them. Roseanne never allowed Clint to be affectionate in public because she didn't want to risk her husband or one of Della's thugs taking a photo of her in a compromising situation. But today is different. My husband is gone. No more sneaking around. No more holding back on dancing close with Clint. Remind me why you stayed with your husband if you hated him so much. I told you, $3 million. My Catholic and tricky mother was ashamed when he caught me cheating and convinced him he was too good to let go. She persuaded him to give me another chance by changing the terms of the prenuptial agreement to show she was serious. At that time, I didn't hate him. The original prenuptial agreement excluded everything I brought into the marriage, such as our home and anything I could get from my parents. After the divorce, everything changed. If I divorce him for any reason, we'll get half of everything. However, if he divorces me, everything will be according to the terms of the old prenuptial agreement, unless he has evidence of infidelity, which is why you and I only had to have sex in the hospital under very controlled conditions. It would be too expensive to get caught. If I catch him cheating, I go back to the terms of the old prenuptial agreement. So I kept throwing sluts at him, but he never bought it. As you know, my parents were surgeons at the Mayo Clinic and had about $6 million in assets and a pension when they died in that accident last year. I didn't want him to receive even half of this amount, so I still remained married to him. I don't understand, Clint said. If you cheated on him before, why did you stay married? I just felt so bad. At 30, I am too young to be a practicing anesthesiologist. I had never failed at anything in my life, so I wanted to prove it to myself, my parents, and him, that I could be a good wife. Only later did I realize that I was not cut out for monogamy and should have used it as a chance to escape. But my mother persuaded me to stay in the marriage. Stupid, I know, and expensive to this day. Kiss me, baby, after a fun evening in the town, She asked client to take her home, where they had sex. She was inspired by being free from Raymond. Exhausted and tired, they lay down next to each other and fell into a blissful sleep. At 8 in the morning, after a shower sex session, it was time for Clint to head home. As they were drying off, they heard the garage door open. In walked Dell in uniform and her supposedly dead husband, Raymond. Roseanne and Clint were shocked to see Raymond alive. Dell handed her a large manila envelope and said, "Roseanne Franklin, this is for you." Then Raymond added, "Oh, and Dr. Cleet," intentionally mispronouncing Clint's name, "it's probably time for you to go home. Your wife should be getting her own envelope with photos and video of your time here yesterday." Clint quickly put on his clothes and rushed out, hoping to explain things to his wife before she got any incriminating evidence. But it was already too late. Raymond had a big shitty grin on his face as he watched his wife's expression change from stunned to furious. "Oh hell no, Dell. I'll sue you and the sheriff and the state patrol if I have to. You and Officer Perkins told me he was dead. This gets me off the hook. Who exactly told you he was dead? Do you have proof? Ray and I spent the weekend watching sports at my house. It was too cold to fish. Samantha was not happy with us. I'll tell you a little secret, Rosie. I haven't fished under the ice since childhood. I love fishing, but not when it's cold. I'll get the phone records. I'm sure there are recordings of your calls from nearby cell towers. I'll get the patrol car footage and ask Officer Perkins to testify under oath." "Good luck, Rosie," Ray said. "See you in court." He and Dell turned to leave, grinning like idiots. Rosanna almost screamed, No, this won't work. This was false information. I did not do anything bad." Ray and Dell continued to walk and laugh. Roseanne collapsed on the bed, unable to believe that these two idiots had outsmarted her. Dell asked, "Wouldn't you like to stay and watch her face when she finds out Officer Perkins isn't on the state patrol? She never got a good look at his car and apparently failed to realize that his uniform was a very believable fancy dress." "Nah, I don't need to hang around here for that. The cameras inside the house are still working. Later I will see and hear everything. Besides, I need to go thank Ty for the performance he put on. He must be a good actor." Samantha had a great idea about faking a CT scan to make Rosie think I had cancer, and Ty was happy to help. "Especially since you paid his insurance deductible to help his daughter get eye surgery. He felt like he owed you. That's why Samantha made it look like you were getting tested for cancer. I just paid in advance. Ty's too nice to worry about that. Didn't you say he passed the deputy sheriff's exam?" "Yes, I passed. We must find a place for him within the next 6 months. Buying a tent that looked exactly like the one that caused the SUV to fall through the ice last year was a stroke of genius. If I didn't know better, I could have sworn that it was your tent in that photo. It was quite simple. She wanted to believe it was true, and she did. Will you stay in Minneapolis or move closer to home?" "I think closer to home. There are several good places near St. Cloud that are only about a half-hour away. Mom will be pleased. Getting a big divorce check means I can start my own engineering company or just hire consultants on the side. Maybe as a thank you for your help, I'll send you and Liz to Cancun for your anniversary." I'm surprised she's so interested in beach vacations given her fair skin. "You only mention Cancun because you hope she'll put in a good word for you to her pretty sister Angela. It's good that you're the detective and not Rosie. You can see what's coming. But she, thank God, couldn't. Take your time to talk to Angela. I don't think I'm really looking forward to going on a date with anyone right now, but hopefully I'll be ready to meet Angela soon. I think you'll be surprised how ready you are. In addition to the previous cheating, you suspected that she had been cheating on you again for over a year. I doubt you have much love left in your heart for Rosia, right? Mostly sadness. But that doesn't mean I'm ready for someone else. I don't think it will be too hard to convince Angela to go to Cancun with me and Samantha. You should have seen Angela in a bikini. If you join us, you will see her wearing it. The thought of Angela in a bikini seemed nice to Ray. Won't their fair skin burn in the sun? He asked. Dell laughed. I don't get why we think you're the smartest. Samantha kept talking about you giving her massages while we drank margaritas under a gazebo, listening to the waves. And if she wants to sit in the sun, I'll make sure sunscreen is applied well and often. If Angela joins us, it'll be much better for you to do this than me or anyone else. Ray smiled, imagining how attractive the two red-haired sisters were. Rosie hired a lawyer and a private investigator to try to prove she was tricked by the officers. But Dell, Ray, and Ty covered their tracks too well. Their phones were checked, and they all had alibis for the time they allegedly visited Rosie. She could not find a single witness who saw them in her house. Given the cold that Sunday afternoon, everyone tried to stay indoors. Eventually, she was forced to give over half of all her assets, including her inheritance from her parents, to Ray. She debated using the rest to pursue him, but decided it wasn't worth it. Dr. Clint's wife was not so understanding. She immediately kicked her husband out of the house and told her father, who was on the board of directors of the hospital. Rosie and Clint were suddenly laid off and had to leave town to find work. As for Ray and Dell, Cancun was fantastic. They had a great time with Samantha and Angela, who enjoyed regular massages and made sure to use plenty of sunscreen. They even spent a day deep sea fishing. While catching fish was fun, the highlight was watching Samantha and Angela sunbathe on the boat's deck. That was the best kind of fishing. Second story. I'm a 30-year-old woman, and my fiancé, who's 26, and I have been together for a year and a half. During this time, my fiancé has had a secret relationship with her ex, who's 43, behind my back. They sleep together, talk about living together again, and discuss my fiancé leaving me for her ex, but she never actually does it. This continues until I find out and catch them. Then, my fiancé does everything she can to convince me to stay with her, and I always do, believing it won't happen again. But 5 to 6 months later, it happens all over again. This has happened at least 4 times, with their affair lasting 1 to 2 months each time. My fiancé leads this double life as long as she can without me knowing. It just happened again. I told her last time that if it happened one more time, it would be a sign for me to leave. She's watched me struggle, questioning my own sanity, and still continued with her actions. Now that everything is out in the open, this would be her chance to leave me and be with her ex, but she's not. She's fighting to stay with me, but why? I told her if I stay, this will keep happening, and it's damaging to my mental health. I moved 3 hours away from my family and hometown to be with her, uprooting my children's lives, and then she does this to me. I need to know why this keeps happening. I'm very lost and confused. I know it's not my fault, and even when I try to prevent it, she finds a way to do it and get away with it. Every time I find out, the ex sends me screenshots of their conversations without me asking. The ex is very narcissistic and delusional. She wants to hurt me and make sure I know everything. After this last time, I feel numb. I'm angry and sad, but also very numb. I'm just trying to understand why my fiancé does this to me.